Hey, how's it going, folks? Welcome back to another edition of LFG, the Unfiltered Franchise Education Podcast. I am back, Michael Hyam, with my other co-host. What are you? Leanne Caruso. How's it going, Leanne? How you doing?
I'm good.
You're good?
I'm good. I'm your
glum.
everything. Co-host,
Oh,
co-CEO, co-founder.
CEO. What? Did you promote yourself again? Shoot, no wonder we have no money in the bank. She's probably giving herself raises on the side. I don't know.
As co-CEO, I could do whatever I want.
How's your week going? How you doing?
Good. It's been a good week. I saw you just a few days ago at the Orlando Franchise Show, which was really good.
Yes,
You guys did a great job. It was packed.
Yes,
And it was
yes, it
hot.
was. Well, look at that. Well, thank you for mentioning that. The show was phenomenal. It was pretty insane.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah. I posted some pictures on LinkedIn. Hopefully some people saw it, but yeah, no, the show was phenomenal. The feedback, even after you left, it was just great. Everyone seemed to be super, super happy, and we're really excited for the next one.
Yeah, congratulations on another great show.
Yes, ma'am. Is this going to air before the Houston event coming up?
Yes, right before.
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah. So, well, we do have a Houston show June 7th and 8th, and I'm looking forward to that one. We actually moved facilities. We're going to be right in the heart of the city this time. So instead of NRG Center, we're headed off to the George R. Brown. Really excited to test it out. I did a site visit the last time I was there, and I'm like, you know what? This looks like a great facility. It's right in the heart of the city. We've got to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah. So speaking of shaking things up, you did a you did a ribbon cutting this time in Orlando.
Oh my goodness.
That was really fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. We were, celebrating some of our successes, and we figured after 25 years we might as well cut the ribbon and be open for business. And if you want to hear any more, go seek out that video I posted on LinkedIn, and you'll get the real reason.
It was good. It was really good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Well, let's jump to it. So this week we have LaMar Van Dusen, founder of Phoenix Management Group, coming on. He is an expert in franchise financing, but he's actually on the Canadian side. So to a lot of our American listeners, he might not sound too familiar, or maybe he does. But he is north of the border, and he's going to offer some amazing insights on funding and everything that goes into all of that stuff, because anyone that needs to a franchise obviously needs money.
Yeah, in Canada, it's a little bit different than the US, so it'll be good.
Yes.
It'll be good information to know, especially if you're either in Canada or expanding into Canada.
We'll get into all of that. But yeah, if you need funding, I mean, this is definitely a good one. Or if you want to learn about funding, unless you're Leanne and you got more money than you can count.
I need funding. No, I need funding. Just Venmo me.
Yeah, we're gonna tune in. But okay, let's get to it. Our first segment is what's growing on. This segment is brought to you by Franchise Assembly. For those of you that don't know, Franchise Assembly is a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. Leanne, take it away and tell us what is growing on.
Well, Chick-fil-A, one of my favorites, is testing a drive-through only mobile through concept. Chick-fil-A is piloting a new drive-through only restaurant model called Mobile Through in select markets. The layout includes multiple lanes, one dedicated exclusively to mobile orders placed via the Chick-fil-A app. The goal is to speed up service and enhance convenience, especially for high volume locations. Aren't they all high volume? This comes as a fast food brands double down on tech-enabled operations amid evolving consumer habits. Chick-fil-A always does a really good job with their drive-through.
Yeah, you probably don't. To me, it sounded like they were about to launch drive-throughs. They don't have drive-throughs?
No, they do have drive-through, but this is a drive-through only, so no dine-in.
So no dine-in. Gotcha. I should listen better.
Yeah, you
That's
should. You should actually pay attention.
that's wild. That's great. I mean, I don't know because here north of the border, I think we only have one Chick-fil-A, or last
What?
I heard, it launched like 2 years ago, and
That's
it
wild.
was doing really, really well somewhere downtown Toronto.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A is pretty insane here.
But yes, on that note, labor market cools slightly, giving relief to employers. The U.S. labor market is showing signs of cooling, with April's jobs report falling short of expectations. Wage growth has moderated, and job openings are slightly down, which could ease pressure on franchisees struggling to hire. This shift may help rebalance power between employers and job seekers after years of a tight labor market. Economists suggest the trend could lead to steadier staffing and operational costs in Q3 and Q4. Oh, so what's the what are the wages at these days, Leanne? What's your minimum wage in America?
Oh, you know what? I don't even know,
I
but
mean,
I
I'm not
heard
suggesting that that gets a minimum wage, but it's just interesting.
minimum wage in Florida right now is $14 per hour for non-tipped employees, and it will increase to $15 an hour in 2026. That's
There you
wild.
go.
Tipped
Wow.
employees receive a minimum wage of $10.98 per hour. God, I remember when it was $3.18.
$3.18. I was just about to make a joke when you were young, but you just
Well, and how is a bartender?
you make
Wow.
$3. You're really aging yourself.
When I was a bartender.
I'm
Shut up.
just kidding. Listen, I know how things were like. I mean, I don't know how things were like in the 50s, but
Oh my God.
you know,
But
I'm sure you made a lot of tips. That's great.
I did. It was great.
What else is growing
All
on?
right. California's FAST Act officially goes into effect. As of April 1st, California's FAST Act is in full swing, raising the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour. The new law applies to chains with at least 60 locations nationwide, prompting price increases and labor strategy shifts across the state. Some franchisors are reevaluating their footprint or staffing models. Other states are watching closely, considering similar legislation. That's crazy.
Wow, what a
How are they
lead
supposed
in.
to
What a
survive?
lead in. So you're still at 14 in Florida, and
Yeah.
California has shifted to 20.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean, that's
crazy.
wild. I mean, it's
Crazy.
nice to make $20 an hour, but at the same time, that really hurts the employers. You know,
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
then the cost of the food goes up and it affects
100%.
everyone.
It's no wonder they're getting everything done by. I was just reading this article about Elon Musk's robot. It's coming. I really want to buy one. It's gonna
Oh,
come really soon.
it's
They're
like
gonna start at like
$9,000, I think.
to how much?
I think 9,000. If it's the
No,
same
I
one
read
I was
twenty
looking at,
thousand.
20,000.
Yeah,
Maybe I was looking at a different one.
yeah, maybe. But yes, folks. So that is what's going on this week. If you have any information on what's going on in your neck of the woods and you want to share it and it relates to franchising, please do. I mean, we got some real doozies that had nothing to do with franchising, but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, we weren't going to share that, but some of that was from our friends. Anyways, send us an email to podcast@franchiseassembly.com. Before we get to our franchise royal segment, this segment is sponsored by Orchitect. Take it away, Leanne.
Managing multiple franchise locations? Meet Maestro by Architect, your ultimate business intelligence solution. Gain a centralized view of your entire network, leverage predictive analytics, and make data-driven decisions to boost productivity and profitability. Seamlessly integrate with QuickBooks and automate tasks like royalty payments. Trusted by successful franchises, Maestro transforms operations across retail, healthcare, education, and sports. Visit Orchitect.com and take your franchise to the next level.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Tell us who you got for this segment brought to you by Architect, Franchise Royals. Leanne, who's your royal?
Franchise Royals. So this week, I think I'm going to do Patty Rother. So Patty has decided to go off on her own and build a fractional franchise development agency of some sort. New details to be announced, but I know it's very exciting. I think it's called Root and Rise, and I know she's gonna do fantastic and do great things in the fractional fran dev space.
Oh, that is
Congratulations to
awesome.
Patty.
Congratulations, Patty. Love it.
Who's yours?
My franchise royal, this is a great one. It's a great story. It is, and you know him, Peter Tsafoulis. I was just thinking
Mm,
in my head, I'm like, maybe a lot of Americans don't know Peter yet, because Peter has come and moved to the US. It's
he's
a
close
great
to me.
story. Peter has over 20 years of franchise experience, franchise sales. Peter, during COVID, decided, during the crazy Canadian lockdowns, that I've had enough of this nonsense and moved
He's going to
to
Florida.
Florida. Yeah, and he did it. He pulled it off, and I think that is great. And congrats, Peter. Actually, another great story about Peter. Just this weekend, so Peter is also the territory owner of La for Florida and maybe more. Sorry, Peter, if I'm getting that a little bit wrong. But yeah, Peter purchased, I believe, the master franchise rights for Florida and maybe others. And he was telling us the story of La which is an ice cream franchise, of course. How this past weekend in Orlando, he was at our Orlando show last year and our Tampa show last year, and he sold a franchise at each of those events.
Oh,
So
very cool.
congrats to Peter. And this was really more about you moving down to the U.S. and living the dream.
And didn't
And
he have his franchisee that he sold in Orlando? In Orlando, we met them.
yes, he brought that franchisee to the show last weekend
Yep,
to tell the story, and a great
very cool.
testament to franchise success. I love it. That was congrats, Peter. We love you.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great meeting the franchisees too. It's very cool. Very cool for full circle moment.
All right. So now, before we head to the famous, sometimes infamous, show and tell segment, I'm joking. Please take a moment to learn about our podcast sponsor, Subtle Strauss.
Franchisors love Subtle Strauss because we protect their brand standard across all marketing channels. Z's love our marketing platform because they can customize, print, download, and mail brand right collateral for their local market in minutes. Want to see how it works? Connect with me, Karen Wenning, on LinkedIn.
Okay, so we are back now with the show and tell segment. Of course, as most of you know, the show and tell segment is where we bring on an industry leader, a thought leader, an expert in a field or many fields that will share ideas on what's going on in that segment of franchising. And we are super, super excited this time around to have LaMar Van Dusen, founder of PFG Financial Group. LaMar, thank you so much for coming on.
Michael, no, thank you and Leanne for having me today. It is definitely an honor. As we talked about earlier, I always appreciate the opportunity to share with entrepreneurs and business owners my experience and how we can help navigate through different challenges. So thanks again for having me today.
Oh, our pleasure. If you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about PFG, just so that our listeners have a little bit of a background.
Yeah, no, I love to share my story. I started my company in my basement about in 2010, and the goal was to really help entrepreneurs build proper business plans. I found when they were looking for financing or different segments of their business, they couldn't figure out how to build a proper business plan. So I really started with building that side of the business. And in 2012, I was moonlighting, working downtown, and doing this on the side. As the kids like to say, a bit of a side hustle. And then I decided at some point in time just to go full time. So since 2012, we've built the business up. And what we really do is primarily is help businesses raise capital through different channels, whether that's through the bank, government, or third-party channels. And then in 2014, I decided to start an accounting firm. So we do everything from full cycle bookkeeping, we do audits, we do reconciliation, HST, payroll. And we have clients across Canada, now into the US, we've entered in. So our goal is to help clients in two areas, finance and accounting. And I always say it's like peanut butter and chocolate. They always go hand in hand. So it's great.
That's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
do now I'm asking personal, do you do like cross? We've had the hardest time with accounting because I'm in the US and he's in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
do all of that?
We do, and
That
that's what,
nonsense?
no, great question. And that's what we found is that, people now are migrating, whether it's from US to Canada or Canada to the US. And it's complicated with their taxes because whether it's business taxes in Canada or business taxes in the US, there's a whole different way of filing taxes. And our team has the expertise in order to do taxes here in Canada, also in the US. We have a whole team in the US that actually helps with migrating the Canadian taxes and the US taxes together. So we're more than happy to help you guys and anybody else that has complications when it comes to US taxes.
Yeah, we when we started this business, we didn't really think much of it, but boy,
Mhm.
that become a mess.
No, no, you know what the first thing you would learn in the US is that they're not the ones to play with when it comes to taxes, right?
Right, right.
IRS is not one you want to miss out on. So
No,
make
no,
sure you get
yeah,
your taxes done.
yeah. All
100%. We
right.
should have considered we should have gone in head first with thinking what are the tax implications before we started anything and how to sort that out before we did anything. That's what we should have done.
Yeah. Hey,
We
hey,
we learned some good lessons along the way.
true entrepreneurs, right?
Right. All right. Well, so speaking of red flags, like Michael and Leanne,
Yeah.
what's one financial red flag that you can spot early on that most franchisors or brokers miss when they're vetting new franchisees?
Yeah, when it comes to like looking at franchisees, you want to look at, I think, five different factors. One is how do they manage their own credit? Like from a credit standpoint, like a bank, because if they're going to get bank financing, they want to make sure that they have good credit or they manage their credit. Two, obviously, is experience. Like, what experience do they have, whether it's managerial experience or whether it's the type of experience in the industry, retail, food industry. We see a lot of franchises in the food industry. And then third is what is their net worth? Like, because when you're looking at someone that's opening up a franchise, and especially when you're injecting capital, you try to figure out whether or not they have the net worth or the backing to help them if things get tough. Because when you're starting a business, and we all know this, is you need capital to inject. And if you need to go to the bank or a lender, they're going to look at your credit, they're going to look at your experience, and they're going to look at your net worth. So all those three things are critical. And we find that franchisors are just looking, do you have the money to buy the franchise, and do you have enough money to buy the FDD? And I think that's a problem when it comes to setting up a proper franchise.
Yeah, which makes definitely a lot of sense. Not to go back to Leanne and I, but sorry, I was just thinking out loud. Like we kind of shoestring this thing together in the
Yeah.
early days. Thank God for us, we were able to make things happen and work through. But even outside of franchisors and franchisees, just in thinking of your own, which is kind of the lead into my next question. But
Yeah.
yeah, you definitely want to make sure that you're well capitalized. Um, and so the lead into my next question is why is a solid business plan and proper preparation not negotiable when buying into a franchise? And then similarly, when starting a business.
I used to say a business plan, I used to say it's like the Bible, but I'll change that and say it's like Google Maps, right? Imagine before Google Maps and you had that old map that you try to figure out where you're like when I went to New York, I had to stop every 15 minutes to make sure I was on the right highway, to make sure I was getting to New York on time. A business plan is the same. Now, in a business plan, you're going to think and crystallize all of your ideas. How many people you need to hire? What type of marketing are you going to do? How are you going to map out your product or your services? What does it look like online? Now, in implementing technology or AI because it's moving so fast. You're also going to look at, oops, sorry, I apologize. You're also going to look at things like what do your numbers look like? So your projections. Most importantly, when I look at a business, they don't think about their revenue, their cost of goods, their operating expenses, their net profit. And if I can ask you, Michael, why did you get into business?
So mostly because we identified, we're looking at wanting to do something, but we ourselves identified a hole in a certain market space, and we figured we could fill this hole. Me personally, I also have a full-time job, and
Right.
then now we have a full-time business that we're doing together. But We originally got into it wanting to fill a gap in a market space that we thought we could do effectively and efficiently. And so far, that's kind of my reasoning. A little bit different than most people.
No, and I think that's obviously commendable, but I'm sure you and Leanne want to make money from this, right? Like,
I
Oh,
was
for
gonna say.
sure.
right? There's a,
He's, he's
there's a
leaving
money
out.
thing that goes with it, right? You don't want to do this for charity. I hope not. Right? Right. So in that money side of it, you really have to look at it. It's like looking at your personal financials. Is like, what does your revenue look like? What does that stream look like? When does it come into effect? What is your expenses like? How many expenses do you have for setting up this podcast? Then you want to look at what is that net profit. When you have partners, you're saying, okay, if we make $100 after all of our expenses and all the taxes we owe, what do we do with that $100? Do we keep it in the business? Do we reinvest it in, or do we get to take that money out? And then if we're going to take it out, and we talked about taxes, how do you take it out? Do you take it out through a dividend? Do you take it out through shareholders' capital? Do you take it out through your own personal taxes? So that whole planning should be fundamental for every business owner. We have this software called QuickBooks. So what QuickBooks does is you put in your 12 months of forecast. Then what you do is you tie your accounting, your bank statements and all that, your bank accounts, credit cards, and it will actually every month with the help of our company or any accounting firm, it will match up with you projected what you said you were going to do with what you actually do. So if you say I'm going to do $1,000, but you only do 900, now you've got to adjust the following month. So you, as every business owner should do, is figure out exactly what your goals are for 1 year, 2, 3 years out. Then start mapping out what your revenue, cost of goods, expenses are. And all of that is done through a business plan. You can't do it any other way, but to actually think about it and put it on paper and put it in a software and then see what the results are based on what you projected.
Do you find that a lot of franchisors don't require a business plan?
Uh, the good franchises do. Some of them will give them a template. If they're going for financing, especially under the government guaranteed loan program that we do a ton of, that requires a business plan.
Okay.
And what we find, Leanne, is that most people don't know how to do a business plan. I mean, there's AI, but AI only does so much. You've got to think about it, what you want. And
Right.
where we come into play is we know how to prepare a business plan. So we work with our partners or our clients, and we'll build that plan based on your vision and our understanding of what you need in order to make it make sense.
That's great. So yeah, I would definitely recommend business plans whenever you're starting a business.
Yeah, 100%. Most people
Again.
don't, I'm sure, but yeah, do it. I think you
Good.
should.
Yeah, so there's so many funding options out there, and I know it can be very confusing, and I know the government loans and private lenders. So how should franchisees approach financing in today's market?
Yeah, so when you look at financing, we'll talk about Canada because obviously in Canada there's limited options, there's limited
Mhm.
banks, but there's always been a good program that has been around since probably 2000s called the Canadian Small Federal Business Loan. And this program is by far the best program whether you're buying a business or you're starting a business. And the reason why it's so good is because it's backed by the federal government. So the banks like it because even if they're giving you the money and things don't work out, the government pays back the money to the bank. But more importantly, you as the entrepreneur that's starting or buying a business, what happens is that you're protected. So you don't have to put all your skin in the game to make sure that business is going to work. That gets funded through that program. So up to 90% of whatever the total cost is funded by the federal government up to $500,000. So imagine if you're buying a restaurant franchise, and statistically, restaurants have the highest failure rate. Even with franchise models, they still have a high failure rate. But you don't want to put all of your money into that. You want to make sure that the government puts their money in and they're protecting you from starting up a business. So we always start with that program first. Then after that, lines of credits, loans, whatever have you. But ideally, you want to be liquid and ready to go so that you know exactly how much you need in order to buy a franchise.
Wow. So say that one more time, just for my own. How much is the government ready to give you when you're starting out a business?
$500,000. 500,000. So if you look at any franchise, for the most part, unless you're buying Tim Hortons or a McDonald's, most of the franchises today are anywhere between three to, we'll say, 600,000 to 700,000, somewhere in that range. Through this Canadian Small Federal Business Loan Program, they'll finance up to 90% of the total cost of that. That's including your rent, first
Wow.
and last month's rent, inventory, legal fees, business plan fees, whatever that total startup cost is from the beginning, they'll finance around 90% of it. We like to say 70% just to be safe, but ideally, in some cases, they'll go as high as 90. What's great about the program, the interest rate is reasonable at prime plus 3. There's a 2% government fee. I like to say it's like CMHC, it's their insurance, but they'll give you up to 10 years to pay that loan back. And as I said, it's protected by the federal government. So, if something happened, another COVID situation, you close the doors, I can't operate any longer, and you can't pay the loan back, the government steps in, it pays 75% of that loan, and now you're only responsible for paying back 25%. Doesn't affect your credit, doesn't affect any borrowings in the future. It is by far the best program in Canada.
Wow,
Wow.
that's
No, that's
fantastic.
amazing. I was going to ask you the interest rate. So prime plus 3, that's great. And
Yeah,
then you're basically only personally guaranteeing 25% of that,
25%. Think about that.
Wow.
which is pretty good. I mean, that's great. And so you don't have to put your house on the line or anything like that. As long as you're accepted. That's I never heard about that program. So that's great. This is great information.
Yeah, thank you.
Um, No, so switching it up a little bit, yeah, you mentioned that you guys do, in addition to the finance piece, you also do bookkeeping. So
Yeah.
talk to us a little bit about that. Why is poor bookkeeping the quiet killer for so many franchises?
You, when I started this company in 2014 on the accounting side, we realized that even the accountants don't really understand how financing works. And as I said, they go hand in hand. If you don't have your books in order, how are you going to go to the bank to get financing? And so what we were seeing is people were waiting till the end of the year to do their bookkeeping rather than doing their bookkeeping on a month-to-month basis. And I always tell people you should be looking at I look at my books every day. I look at my P&L, I look at my balance sheet, and I want to know if I am actually on target to hit my numbers or not. And say, for example, we're into now almost into June. I'll look back at April and I'll see if I'm actually on target or if I need to make some adjustments. And you can see whether your cost of goods are too high or too low, your expenses are too high or too low, your net profit is on track. And we're actually working on a software. It will give you like a report card. It'll say, your A, this is good, B is okay, but here's the things that you need to work on. The yellow, the cautionary things, and the reds are really you need to step up right away. So if you don't manage your books, how do you know if you're making profit? How do you know if your expenses are too high or too low? How do you know what you're going to pay in taxes to the government? Because you got to pay some of that money back. Excuse me.
Oh,
Excuse me.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. You have to pay that money back to the government when you're making money. So all of those allocations are really important. If you don't know your numbers, then I think you're dead in the water, in my opinion.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping.
Bookkeeping. I
I
know that's
know.
the big challenge with franchisors and like getting the P&Ls of franchisees because they don't keep good books and it's unless they've got good systems in place, it's detrimental.
Yeah.
All
We say
right.
it's like going to the dentist,
Right.
you have to go, you don't like it, but it's a necessary evil.
So you
You
have
gotta
to.
get out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people go into business. Well, a lot of entrepreneurs go into business with the thought of their exit.
Yeah.
So if franchisees keep that in mind, and I know some of them are entrepreneurs and don't really think that, or not entrepreneurs and don't really think that way, but a lot of franchisees should be thinking about their exit always, right? Like from the beginning. So
Mhm.
what financial steps should they take to protect that value?
Yeah, and it just leads back to good books, right?
Hmm.
So when you think about your business, it's an asset, right? So if you have good books, that is definitely a good asset. So when I'm selling you my business, it comes in different forms. It comes in the tangible assets that you have, comes in the intangible of the franchise itself. But more importantly, I want to look at how well you're doing, how much profit you're making, what's your gross revenue, what are your expenses. So the only way that you can do that is by having proper books, making sure that your franchise is clean, making sure that you don't owe any money to the federal government or the provincial governments, and making sure that when you present your package to sell it, that you give them a clean slate that says, here's how much money I'm making, and this is why I'm selling it for this price. And anytime that you're buying a business and you're getting into it, a franchise especially, you should think about that exit strategy because I'm sure you don't want to keep it for the rest of your life. And how do you take that from $100 to $1,000 so that when you sell it, you're getting 10 times of what you've invested originally?
Right.
So true. When I sell, Leanne, you can pay me 10 times. Like you'll buy me
Oh,
out.
whatever.
Oh,
There's a
this is great.
multiple. Yeah.
Yeah. One last thing, Lamar, and this it actually just came to me. One of the things when we were at our Let's Grow conference in Toronto that kind of came up was not going just taking us a couple steps back to the financing portion.
Right.
Was that trying to get these loans, okay, not what you were talking about with this government funded loan, but just in general, was that there's really only the 4 or 5 major big banks that everyone goes through to get a business loan.
Right.
And it's kind of black and white, like if they'll either accept you or they don't accept you, and that's it. Do you have any thought on that? Is there a better way for financing at all? And like any ideas to that kind of line of if that's the way? Because in the US, it works a little bit differently where there's so many other financial institutions and lenders that can help you and kind of massage things through for you.
Yeah, you're right. There are limited options in Canada. You've got, the 4 major banks, but there are credit unions that are also available that you can look at for getting financing. There's BDC, which is a federal backed organization that you can look at for getting financing. So there are other alternative options than the traditional banking system where you can get loans or lines of credits. But it boils back down to, again, how's your personal credit? How's your net worth? What is your business experience? Tell me your story as to why I should give you money. There's organizations right now that will lend specifically, whether you're, for example, there's programs for women that offers a $50,000 line of credit or loan. There's a great program for young entrepreneurs right now. It's called Futurepreneur. It's up to $75,000 that anybody can get between the age of 18 to 39 as long as you have decent credit. You don't need to have assets. You have to have 10% and a really solid business plan. So there's lots of options. You just have to know what's available. And what we do is we figure out what's best option for you. Then we also tie in whatever grants may be available to you because there's different grant programs. And we give you those options on one report and says, based on your situation, here's what you're eligible for. Here are the programs. Now you decide whether you want us to help you through that process or whether you want to go on your own and do it yourself. But there's tons of different options available. People just don't know what those options are.
I love it.
Glad you
Love
asked
it.
that.
Yeah. We're gonna have to have you in Let's Grow, Lamar. Teach a session.
No problem. Yeah.
That was great. Thank you very, very much for coming on. Tell us what's the best way if someone wants to reach out to you or find you? Are you on LinkedIn or should they go to the website?
I'm everywhere. I'm on LinkedIn. You can go to our website at www.pfgfinancial.ca. You can call us at 905-686-8787. You can email me at lamar@pfgfinancial.ca. This is, I've been doing this for so long and I tell people it's my passion. I've got so much experience that I've helped business owners or our team has, and I really enjoy sharing my knowledge with people. And whether you call me and ask me a question, I'll give you whatever support I can give you or our team can give you, without hesitation.
Amazing. Again, thank you so much for coming on and sharing this information. And yeah, that was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, very informative. Thank you.
No, thank you both for having me. And again, let's promote franchises and help them grow and get to the next stage. So thanks again.
Yeah, you bet.
All right. Amazing. That was great. So good having LaMar on. Unbelievable information. Very knowledgeable, LaMar. And thank you for getting into not only the financing, but in bookkeeping and lots of information. That was great. Our next and final segment of this podcast is Franchise Mingle. And I've said it once or twice in the early days when we started the podcast, but Leanne and I own franchisemingle.com. And the reason I bring it up is because we were actually just looking at the 30 different websites that we own. So one day whenever someone's looking to buy a franchise website, you should send inquiries and offer thousands of dollars, because we might own one. So I'm just kidding. We appreciate the support. All right. I joke. Enough of my nonsense. All right. Franchise Mingle is sponsored by the National Franchise Show. As we mentioned earlier in the podcast, our last franchise show of the spring is happening in Houston, June 7th and 8th at the George R. Brown Convention Center, just in a couple of days, actually. Looking forward to that. The fall, we have our fall lineup. We're going to be in Denver, Detroit, Atlanta, Phoenix, Tampa. So a bunch of new locations. If you are growing in any of those areas, please feel free to reach out. We're going to connect you with thousands of business buyers through our events. I'm happy to tell you a bit more about that. Our final show of this year is going to be in Tampa. And you must have heard by now that our Let's Grow Marketing and Technology Assembly is going to be back-to-back with the Tampa Franchise Show. So we'll have the Franchise Show on Saturday, Sunday. Then we'll have the Marketing Assembly Sunday night, plus all day Monday. And then we move to our Hello Mastermind Fall Retreat for marketers and friend development on the 4th and 5th. So that'll continue through to Tuesday, Wednesday. Wow, that's going to be a long week. But yeah, and then we'll end off the year with Let's Grow's Franchise Growth Assembly in Toronto, which is now open to marketing, to friend dev people, and to operations. That is going to take place in downtown Toronto, December 3rd and 4th. And since we're talking about Let's Grow, for those of you that don't know, mark off your dates for Let's Grow in Dallas, Fort Worth. That'll be happening January 27th through to the 29th, which will be front loaded this year with the Dallas Franchise Show happening immediately after Let's Grow in Dallas. This episode is brought to you by Subtle Strauss Architect Franchise Assembly and the National Franchise Show. Thank you so much for sticking around, guys. We'll catch you in a couple of weeks.
Bye.